Well, hey there, my diecast family. How you guys all doing today? Oh man, you know what? Before I get into this video, I just want to shout out to all you guys, all my subscribers, all my viewers, whether you be casual or full time. Man, I've been watching this subscribership and viewership just really go up in recent weeks here, and guys, it makes me so happy. I am just really pleased that this content is resonating with so many of you, and just watching the channel grow and become bigger and more successful, it just makes me so happy. So I just want to thank all you guys for that. You're the reason why it's a success. I put these videos out there, and I hope that they are enjoyable by you guys and they get lots of views. And if people, I want you to tell stories about your experiences with these cars in the real life. I know everything I've featured, at least people have owned at least one of them at some point out there at some juncture in time. So yeah, it just makes me really happy to do that, and share those stories with you all, and delve into these cars, and hey, we don't all have Jay Leno's money, so we can't have the real thing in a big warehouse like he does. So this is the next best thing, right? All right, so I thought today I'd do some video, a video on some Jeeps actually, and I used to work with a real jokester who is a Jeep enthusiast, and he told me, he says, "Hey, Bill, don't you know that Jeep stands for just empty every pocket?" And I just said, "Why would you say that, man?" And he says, "Well," he says, "like this, you got four pockets on your pants, right? You empty the first two pockets just trying to buy the Jeep, and then you empty the next two pockets making all the modifications you want to it." Because I guess Jeep owners have a notorious thing where they can't leave well enough alone. They love to modify their vehicles. So I guess that's where that got started, because historically they've always been pretty reliable vehicles. So it wasn't because they were breakdown prone. It's because you spend a ton of money trying to modify them. So a couple of these Jeeps you guys have already seen. This one here, the brown Hot Wheels Jeep CJ, and then this little Matchbox Jeep CJ right here. You've seen these both in a prior video. Just brought them up here for reference and to a review just real quick. The Hot Wheels one, that was a casting from the 80s. The Matchbox one is a casting from the 70s. And I've held a belief that this is some kind of international version depicted here, because you'll notice this has got kind of an extended wheelbase. It's got a funny looking top on it. And it's also got some other odd feature where the passenger seat and the driver's seat are actually different shapes and sizes. It's kind of interesting. So I'm really led to believe that when Matchbox did this CJ6, that's what this is, that they were depicting some kind of international model, because I don't remember ever seeing a Jeep that looked like that here in the States at all. When I thought of a Jeep, a CJ in the States, this is the one that came to my mind right here. If this was white, it would look like Daisy Duke's Jeep from the Dukes of Hazzard series. Pretty cool, right? All right, so what I'm going to do now is show you the Jeeps you haven't seen yet. I'm going to start with this one. I like to work from oldest to the newest. All right, so this is a more current Matchbox casting. This is from sometime in the 2020s. I don't remember exactly when. When we look at the chassis, we'll take a look. All right, so the Wagoneer was introduced in 1963. And then this would be, I believe this is a 64 model that they're showing here. But the 63 was very similar. And this was Jeep's attempt to kind of cultivate I guess you'll call it a family-friendly image. Up to this point, they had, just basically been the CJ and the Willys and all that kind of stuff. And they were very utilitarian, of course. So the Wagoneer was kind of like the first family-friendly style Jeep. They came in, I think they had both 2 and 4-wheel drive, but most of them were 4-wheel drive because, it's kind of silly to have a Jeep be 2-wheel drive, don't you agree? Initially, they were 6-cylinder powered, and then eventually they began offering a V8. And they had kind of interesting styling in the front because they were trying to replicate the front end styling of the classic, Willys, and also later the CJ style Jeep. But I was talking with one of my subscribers about the current Matchbox offerings, and he was talking about the steering wheel, how in the current offerings it just is kind of a joke. It's oversized. It's just kind of in there. And I have to say, taking an examination of this, he is absolutely right about that. Yeah, Matchbox's current offerings are just not as good as what they used to offer. I mean, they still put forth a pretty good effort. You got some decent details on here. You got the molded in little mirror here on the side. But you've got this plastic chassis. It's chromed out, which is nice because then you have a realistic looking bumper. But yeah, I also don't like the fact that, they riveted to get what they should have did, in my opinion, they should have made it a clip style in the rear. Because now you got this big rivet tower that runs from the ceiling of the truck all the way down to the bottom here. Now you see that inside the vehicle there. That just kind of looks fairly crappy. I'm sorry to say, but it just does. But some other details are actually pretty sharp. I mean, you got the little implement here where you could roll down the window for the tailgate. You got a Wagoneer script right here. Pretty accurately, relatively decently done tail lamps. But yeah, other than that, it really is, I hate to say, kind of a weak effort on their part. But hey, it is what it is, right? This is what the Matchboxes people are giving you these days. Okay, let's jump forward to about the mid-70s now. So this is a really nice Jeep CJ that Greenlight does with the Renegade package, it's called. One of the things, this Jeep, everything about this Jeep I absolutely love. You got the bright orange paint with those blue stripes. You got the blue seats. You got the little winch there on the front. You got those classic 70s wagon wheel spoke wheels on there. I don't know about you all, rest of you Gen Xers, but there used to be a catalog called the Dick Seatpet catalog, and he sold wheels and tires in there back in the day. And I remember the wagon wheel spokes were very popular, both in the chrome and in the white version you see here. But this is a very nice effort by them. Let's bring this in a little closer now. We got our little spare tire here. We have what looks to be some iridescent style tail lamps. I see a turn signal lever right there on this beside the steering wheel on the column. That's kind of cool. There's your you got two floor shifters. One for the manual transmission, the other one's for the transfer case, your high and low range. When these were in low range, but they're short wheelbase, you could climb these things up some pretty steep grades like a billy goat. They're pretty agile. Nicely done. Yeah, I started to really like the CJ Jeep in these years here, and also like that brown Hot Wheels one I just showed you with the Real Rider tires. Pretty nice stuff. Oh, I see. Look how they Greenlight did that. Usually they put those plastic suspension pieces on. This one here, the chassis is actually engineered specifically for the Jeep. See, the reason they put those plastic pieces on some of those other trucks they do is because that can be either a two-wheel or four-wheel drive chassis. All right, let's look at a very sharp Johnny Lightning casting. All right, so this is, they started offering the Grand Wagoneer in the late 70s. So this is a 1979 Grand Wagoneer that Johnny Lightning does, as I said. Up step from the basic Wagoneer. It's got, as you can see, wood grain siding, nice sharp aluminum wheels, roof rack on there. And then inside they had I've seen these in both all leather interior and also a combination leather and cloth interior. And they had the kind of power options you would expect, the windows, the locks, cruise control, air conditioning, all that good stuff. Very actually elegantly done vehicle. And by the way, the same body shell as the 1963. If you were to pull these headlamps and this grill off, you would see the openings for the old style 1963 grill. It's pretty funny. In fact, sometimes guys would take the older Jeeps. There's a conversion kit now. You can take the newer Jeep like this and then convert it back to the old one if you want. Kind of get that retro style. But yeah, Johnny Lightning did a pretty good job with this. This has an opening tailgate, but it doesn't open anymore. It would not stay closed. So I had to super glue it, unfortunately. We said we popped the hood here. I think I have just enough of a fingernail, there we go, to reach in there. So I think back in these days, they were using the AMC 360. This is back in that point in time when Jeep was still owned by AMC. So they were using a lot of their running gear. It's pretty decent effort under there. I can see a snorkel for the air cleaner, a few other little accessories in there. And overall, I think it's a sharp-looking vehicle. Even these wheels are very accurate of the style aluminum wheels that they had. They made this Grand Wagoneer in this body style all the way until, I think, 1991. They were very popular, especially in my area where I grew up in Colorado there. I like this color on this, too. This is really pretty. All right, now I'm going to show you a pair of downsized Cherokees that they came out with. This here, I believe, is either an inaugural year 84 or possibly even an 85. So this was Jeep taking Went to just calling this a Grand Wagoneer. It just kind of adopted that name full time because these here were called either a Cherokee or Wagoneer. The Cherokee was the cheaper version, and the Wagoneer was the more expensive version. They also had a Wagoneer Limited that had like a stacked rectangular headlamp setup on them. My father had one of these. I think his was a 98. This is another Jeep that they kept the body around a really long time. I think they kept this into the 2000s. They just made some changes to like the front end and the rear end. But I remember initially they were using a 2.8 liter V6, and there's also a 4-cylinder. And then later on they came out with their own inline 4 liter 6, which was actually an excellent engine. So this is it being an early one. It's going to have the early style aluminum wheels on there that they had. Just a nice little basic Wagoneer. They had the black mirrors, the black door handles, and really good job with the grille details. That's exactly what they used to look like. Very nice. Now back here you had your little, yeah, see right there, there's the badge. See, V6 2.8 liter. That's how you know it's an early one. And then that little script there says Quadra-Track. That's what they called their 4-wheel drive system. You see this one here's got the little plastic suspension pieces. Yeah. Yes, it's 85. Okay, so I was very close. I said either 84 or 85. There's also a nice little faint orange pinstripe going down the side here. That's a nice detail too. That Greenlight did. Very good. All right, now I'm going to show you a later version. You'll notice it's the same body and same details, but this is a new one. I believe this is like a 91. Little Cherokee. So they had, by then they had the 4 liter inline 6, which was a lot more powerful, a little more longer lasting too. It was much more durable than the 2.8. And when they started putting that engine in these Jeeps, these things started to. I don't even think they could keep these things in stock. I remember out in Colorado, it seemed like every other vehicle on the road was one of these Jeeps. But you have to admit they were attractive looking, and they were reliable. And they definitely served a purpose. I mean, they were a great family car to use in a snowy area because they sat high enough to get you through the winter snow, but they sat low enough that a family could use them without feeling like they were stepping up into a monster truck. So you'll notice this one's got the extra little cladding on the side with the fender flares and the nicer uprated aluminum wheels here. Very nice. All right, now see, here you go. Now that says 4.0 liter right there. And then let's see if we can find out what year this one is. Yeah, it's in 1991. There we go. 1991. So you see it's exactly identical to the 85. It just has a lot of like improvements that are under the skin, we call it. Very nice. That's probably my favorite one of all the Jeeps I've got here. So there we have it, my diecast family. Nice little Jeep presentation. And if you are a Jeep enthusiast, let me know if that's true what my old coworker said. Does Jeep really mean just empty every pocket because you spend all your money buying it and then modifying it? All right, well, in the meantime, all of you take care of yourselves. God bless, and we'll see you in the next video, okay?